Have you ever noticed gardeners whitewashing trees in the fall? What if we told you it's not only a pointless waste of time, but could actually harm your beloved trees? Get ready to be surprised, because today we're going to debunk one of the most persistent gardening myths. The tradition of whitewashing trees is deeply rooted in history. Originally, it was done to protect them from sunscald and pests. People believed the white trunks would reflect sunlight and deter insects. But is that actually true, especially in September? Let's find out. First, let's address a common and widespread misconception regarding autumn tree whitewashing. Many gardeners whitewash tree trunks in September, believing it protects their plants from sunscald. The idea seems logical. White effectively reflects sunlight. However, this argument simply doesn't hold up in September. At this time of year, the sun is no longer as intense or aggressive as it is in summer. Its activity significantly decreases. Days grow shorter and the intensity of UV radiation drops. Crucially, the leaves on fruit trees haven't fallen yet. Even if the foliage is starting to yellow, the tree canopies still provide natural shade for the trunks and major branches. This natural protection reliably shields the bark from direct sun exposure. Therefore, in September, the risk of your trees experiencing sunscald is minimal, practically zero. Nature itself has already provided for your plants' comfort and safety. Any whitewashing efforts during this period, aimed at sun protection, will be fruitless. You'll simply be wasting your time and materials battling a problem that doesn't currently exist. Remember, the effectiveness of any gardening task hinges on proper timing. Moving on to the second point, which makes September whitewashing utterly pointless. Even if there were a valid reason to protect tree trunks from the sun, which, as we've already discussed, there isn't. The autumn weather would quickly undo all your hard work. We're talking, of course, about the autumn rains. September is a month known for its changeable and often damp weather. Rain falls regularly, sometimes for extended periods. Imagine this. You've spent an entire day, or even more, meticulously whitewashing every tree in your garden. You mix the solution, carefully applying it to the trunks, dreaming of a beautiful and protected garden. Then, the very next morning, or just a few days later, a heavy downpour begins. And what happens next? The ordinary whitewash, which usually consists of lime, is simply washed away by the water. It doesn't have time to properly adhere to the bark, nor does it form a strong protective layer. Instead of an even white coating, you'll see dirty, unsightly streaks on the trunks, and most of the whitewash will end up on the ground beneath the trees. This not only renders all your efforts meaningless, but also spoils the aesthetic appeal of your garden. Instead of neat white trunks, you're left with smudges and stains. In essence, you're doing work that is temporary and quickly washes away. You are literally washing away your labour with rainwater. So before you grab that brush in September, think about the weather forecast. Now, let's debunk another widespread misconception that whitewashing trees in September protects them from pests. Many gardeners are convinced that this white coating will deter insects or prevent them from climbing the tree to overwinter. Unfortunately, the reality paints a different picture. First, September is already quite late in the season for actively combating most garden pests. Most insects that pose a threat to trees have either completed their life cycle or, more likely, are actively preparing for winter. They've either already sought refuge in the soil, beneath fallen leaves, in bark crevices, or have laid their eggs in secluded spots. The whitewash on the trunk poses no serious impediment to them. If a pest has already found shelter under the bark or in another inaccessible spot, an external layer of lime won't deter it in the slightest. Furthermore, certain pests, like mice or rabbits, which can damage bark during winter, are completely unaffected by whitewash. It poses no barrier to them whatsoever. Rather than relying on autumn whitewashing for pest control, it's far more effective to employ other methods. For instance, autumn sanitary pruning, clearing fallen leaves and plant debris, and turning over the soil around tree trunks. These are the measures that truly help reduce pest populations. These actions target the destruction of insect overwintering sites, rather than creating a superficial barrier that, incidentally, is quickly washed away by rain. So, when it comes to pest management in September, It's better to opt for more targeted and effective methods than a bucket of whitewash and a brush. Here's another subtle but significant downside to September whitewashing that's often overlooked. It can actually make it harder for the tree's bark to breathe. That's right, trees breathe too, and this process is absolutely critical for their health and survival. The bark isn't just a protective outer layer, it's filled with tiny micropores or lenticels through which the tree exchanges gases with the environment, much like our own skin breathing. However, when you apply a thick layer of whitewash to the trunk, especially if it's not mixed correctly or is too concentrated, you run the risk of clogging these very micropores. Picture yourself wrapped tightly in an impermeable plastic film. It would be incredibly difficult to breathe, wouldn't it? Trees experience something similar. Clogging these pores can disrupt the natural gas exchange and moisture evaporation processes. The tree then finds it much harder to breathe and regulate its internal water balance. This is especially critical for young trees, whose tender, not yet fully developed bark is far more sensitive to such interference. In autumn, as trees transition and slow down their metabolic processes in preparation for winter, it's even more vital for them to breathe freely. Creating an artificial, impenetrable barrier on the bark can stress the plant and weaken it just when it needs to be strongest for the approaching cold. Instead of providing a benefit, you're inadvertently adding an extra burden to the tree. Remember, nature's processes generally work best when we don't interfere unnecessarily, and in September, there's simply no pressing need for whitewashing. Next, let's talk about the purely practical and economic aspects that many gardeners overlook when it comes to whitewashing trees in September. Frankly, it's a complete waste of your precious time and effort. Gardening is a demanding hobby, and every hour you spend in the garden should yield real benefits. Think about it. Whitewashing trees is far from a quick job. You have to prepare the solution, often mixing several components. Then, you carefully apply it to each trunk, sometimes even covering the main structural branches. This takes considerable time and physical effort, especially if you have a large garden. And now, remember all our previous points. Autumn rains will wash away your hard work. Sun protection isn't necessary in September, and pests have already found their winter shelters. Ultimately, all your efforts go to waste. The hours spent whitewashing could have been dedicated to truly important autumn tasks. For instance, remedial pruning, which shapes the canopy and removes diseased branches, or thoroughly clearing fallen leaves, which are breeding grounds for diseases and pests. You could also be deep watering your trees, a practice crucial for their successful winter dormancy. Instead, you're doing work that brings no actual benefit, merely creating the illusion of productive activity. Your energy and time are valuable resources that should be utilised wisely. Don't waste them on outdated and ineffective gardening methods, especially when there are far more critical tasks demanding your attention in the autumn. Optimise your efforts and focus only on what's truly essential. Let's continue our discussion on wasteful spending, this time focusing on the economic aspects of whitewashing trees in September. It's not just a drain on your time and energy, it's also an utterly pointless financial outlay. Whitewashing trees requires materials. At the very least, you'll need lime or specialised ready-made whitewash mixtures. While the cost per package might seem small, multiply that by the number of trees in your garden and factor in the annual tradition of autumn whitewashing. Suddenly, you're looking at a surprisingly significant sum. Now consider this. The whitewash gets washed away by rain, offers no protection from the autumn sun, and doesn't deter pests. Essentially, you're buying and applying a product that simply doesn't deliver on its promises in September. Your money is literally going down the drain with the rainwater. It's like buying an umbrella and using it indoors when there's no rain. That money could be spent far more effectively, bringing real benefits to your garden. Imagine investing in high-quality fertilizers that genuinely help your trees prepare for winter, promising a bountiful harvest next year. Or perhaps specialized treatments for disease and pest prevention, which work precisely and effectively. You might even need a new garden tool to make plant care easier. Don't fall for the illusion of cheap whitewashing, given its utter futility in September. Any amount you spend on it is simply money wasted. A rational approach to gardening isn't just about saving time. It's about smart budget management. Invest in what delivers real, tangible results, not in traditions that have long lost their practical value for this time of year. Now let's talk about something really important concerning young trees. Whitewashing in September isn't just pointless. It can be downright harmful to delicate saplings. Their bark is still very thin and sensitive, requiring extra gentle care. Imagine a baby's delicate skin. It's far more susceptible to external influences than adult skin. It's the same with young trees. Their bark hasn't yet thickened or developed a robust protective layer. Applying a layer of whitewash, especially if it contains aggressive components like too much lime or unsuitable additives, can cause irritation or even chemical burns. Even without burns, a thick layer of whitewash can disrupt the bark's natural processes. We've discussed how trees breathe before, but for young trees, this is even more critical. Impaired gas and moisture exchange weakens the immature plant, depriving it of essential resources needed for winter preparation. Instead of storing nutrients and strengthening itself for the cold, the sapling expends energy recovering from the whitewash's effects. As a result, the young tree enters winter in a weakened state, which significantly increases its risk of frost damage or disease. By trying to protect it, you're actually subjecting it to additional stress and danger. For young saplings, proper watering, protection from rodents, and shielding from severe frosts are far more crucial than pointless and potentially harmful whitewashing in September. Take good care of your little ones and don't expose them to unnecessary challenges. The next crucial point to consider is the overall health of your trees. Whitewashing should only be applied to absolutely healthy plants. If your tree's bark already has any damage, cracks, wounds, or signs of disease, whitewashing in September won't just be unhelpful, it could significantly exacerbate the problem. Imagine you have a cut on your hand. Would you paint over it to protect it? Of course not. You'd clean it, apply antiseptic, cover it with a bandage, and let it heal. The same principle applies to trees. If the trunk has frost cracks, mechanical injuries, or traces of pests, whitewashing will merely seal in the problem. A layer of lime or paint can create ideal conditions for fungal infections and bacteria to thrive underneath. Moisture, seeping under the whitewash through cracks, gets trapped there, and the lack of ventilation promotes pathogen multiplication. You're simply covering up the source of the problem, preventing it from airing out and healing naturally. Instead of whitewashing a damaged tree in September, you must first carry out healing procedures. Clean the wounds of any dead tissue, then treat them with special tree wound sealants or fungicides to halt the infection's development. Only after complete healing and bark restoration should you consider protective treatments. In autumn, it's far more vital to prepare the tree for winter by treating its ailments, not masking them. An unhealthy tree won't effectively resist the cold, and whitewashing is certainly no cure-all. Let's delve deeper into the composition of the whitewash itself. Many gardeners use plain slaked lime, which is perfectly fine. However, in an attempt to enhance protection, some add various other components. This is where a risk arises. An incorrectly prepared mixture or the use of aggressive additives can do more harm than good, especially when whitewashing in the autumn. The problem is that certain components, particularly in high concentrations, can be too harsh for tree bark. For instance, copper sulfate, often included in whitewash for its disinfectant properties, can actually burn delicate bark in large quantities, especially on younger trees. If you're using pre-made mixtures, always read the ingredients carefully and follow the instructions. Avoid experimenting with folk recipes where proportions are simply guessed. Aggressiveness isn't the only concern. While standard lime solutions are safe, they're quickly washed away by autumn rains, as we've already mentioned. If you want the whitewash to last at all, you need to use special garden paints or solutions with added bonding agents. However, even these won't be as effective in September as they would be in spring due to constant humidity. Harmful additives or incorrect concentrations can do more than just damage the bark. They can compromise its protective functions, making the tree more vulnerable to frost and diseases. Imagine applying a corrosive substance to your skin. It would redden and might start to peel. The same thing happens to tree bark. Therefore, if you're going to whitewash, do it wisely. Use proven, safe formulations, and most importantly, do it at the right time of year. September is definitely not a time when you should be taking risks. So, when exactly is the ideal time to whitewash trees if not in September? The answer is quite simple and clear. The best time is actually late winter or very early spring. This period typically spans from late February through March and into early April, depending on your specific climate zone and local weather conditions. Why this specific window? Because this is when whitewashing performs its most vital function, protecting against spring sun scald. During late winter and early spring, the sun becomes incredibly bright and active. Days are already sunny and warm, yet the ground often remains frozen. Consequently, tree bark, especially on the south-facing side, heats up significantly throughout the day. At night, however, temperatures plummet, often well below freezing. These drastic temperature swings from warm daytime to freezing nights cause the water within the bark tissues to rapidly expand and contract. This phenomenon leads to what are known as frost cracks or sun scald cracks, deep fissures that can penetrate the trunk all the way to the wood. These cracks then become open invitations for pests and diseases, severely weakening the tree and potentially leading to its demise. A white layer of whitewash applied during this critical period effectively reflects the sun's rays, preventing the trunk from overheating during the day. This in turn moderates temperature fluctuations, shielding the bark from developing those damaging frost cracks. Furthermore, this time of year typically sees fewer heavy and frequent rains compared to autumn. As a result, the whitewash adheres much better and maintains its protective qualities throughout this entire critical period. So, remember, the golden rule for successful tree whitewashing is choosing the right time. Okay, since we've ruled out September whitewashing, let's discuss what truly deserves your attention in the garden right now. Fall tree care needs a different approach, one that genuinely prepares them for winter and ensures their overall health. Crucially, consider sanitation pruning. September is the perfect time to remove any dry, damaged, diseased, or broken branches. These branches don't offer any benefit. Instead, they serve as potential sources of infection and hideouts for pests. By removing them, you improve air circulation within the canopy, reduce the risk of disease spread, and make winter easier for the tree. Don't forget to treat all cuts with tree wound sealant or a specialised putty. The next crucial step is a thorough clean-up of fallen leaves and debris around tree trunks. Many pests and disease pathogens overwinter in plant debris right beneath the tree. By collecting and disposing of these leaves, you deny them a cosy winter haven and significantly reduce the risk of your garden becoming infected next season. Simply gathering the leaves and burning or removing them from your garden is a far more effective measure than any whitewashing. In September, you can also perform light shaping or formative pruning, removing branches growing inwards or competing with each other. This helps improve light penetration and air circulation, both crucial for future yields. Think of fall pruning as a comprehensive, deep clean for your trees before their winter slumber. It offers significantly more benefits than merely painting their trunks. Focus on these tasks and your garden will thank you. Continuing our focus on truly beneficial autumn tasks, let's turn our attention to another crucial aspect: pre-winter deep watering. If autumn has been dry, this practice becomes far more critical than any trunk whitewashing. So, what exactly is this pre-winter deep watering? It's the process of thoroughly soaking the soil with moisture before the ground freezes. The goal is to build up a substantial water reserve in the tree's root zone, which will help it survive the winter. When the ground freezes, roots can no longer absorb moisture. If a tree goes into winter without enough water, it can suffer from what's known as physiological drought. This happens when there's water all around in the form of ice, but the plant can't access it, leading to dehydration. This deep watering is especially crucial for young trees and those that have been recently planted. They haven't yet developed a strong root system capable of tapping into deeper water reserves. Even for mature trees, this practice is highly beneficial. Water gradually, allowing the moisture to slowly soak down to a depth of up to 1 metre. The amount of water needed depends on the tree's size and soil type, but typically it's several buckets or even multiple barrels per fruit tree. Proper pre-winter deep watering aids in better nutrient uptake, boosts the tree's resilience, and helps it withstand winter stresses. It's a direct investment in the health and future productivity of your garden for the coming year. In contrast, whitewashing in September is simply a waste of water, quickly washing away and offering no practical benefit. So if it's dry out there, grab your hose, not your paintbrush. Last but not least on your autumn checklist, and far more beneficial than simply whitewashing in September, is the proper protection of young saplings from both frost and rodents. This is absolutely vital for their survival through harsh winter conditions. Young trees, especially those in their first or second year, have very tender bark that is easily damaged by low temperatures and the sharp teeth of rabbits or mice. Frost cracks can be fatal to delicate saplings, while rodents, by gnawing the bark completely around the trunk, a process known as girdling, prevent the tree from absorbing nutrients, ultimately leading to its demise. Whitewashing, despite what some might believe, offers no effective protection against either frost or rodents. Mice and rabbits won't be deterred by a thin layer of whitewash, and it provides no real defence against severe frosts. Therefore, it's essential to use other, more reliable methods of protection. For rodent protection, specialised plastic tree guards or fine mesh metal hardware cloth work wonderfully. These should be wrapped around the trunk from the base up to the first scaffold branches. You can also use roofing felt or fiberglass cloth. It's crucial that the barrier extends a few inches into the soil to prevent mice from tunnelling underneath. For frost protection, you can mound soil around the base of the tree, creating a small hill around the trunk. This will protect the sensitive root collar. The trunks themselves and young branches can be wrapped with burlap, horticultural fleece, spun-bond fabric, or other breathable covering materials. This creates an insulating air pocket that will reduce the impact of freezing temperatures. This comprehensive approach to protecting young saplings is vastly more effective and important than pointless whitewashing. Invest in genuine protection, and your young trees will successfully make it through the winter. And here's the kicker. Whitewashing in September isn't just useless, it can actually be harmful. Instead of protecting your trees, it can trap moisture against the trunk, creating the perfect breeding ground for fungal diseases. This means that while you're trying to help, you're actually exposing your trees to additional risk right before they head into winter dormancy. It's a real gardening plot twist that many people still overlook. So remember this. Whitewashing trees in September is an outdated practice that offers no benefits. It simply wastes your time, money, and can even cause harm. Instead, focus on truly effective methods to prepare your garden for winter. Thanks for watching this video all the way to the end. If you found our tips helpful, please give us a like, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new useful videos, and of course, leave a comment. Have you ever whitewashed your trees in the fall? Tell us about your experience.